Hello again, ladies and gentlemen. We are here in Grobnik and we are about to start the race number 1 of the second event of this year's Clio Cup Bohemia. This cup has already raced in Austria. They raced, well, around about a month ago in the first half of April. And now they are ready for round number 2 for races 3 and 4 of the 2026 season. And on the front row of the grid, which as you can see is getting really packed, the two guys who are currently leading the championship, Tomáš Pekář, the crowned champion, and the reigning champion, and of course one of his biggest opponents, the Polish driver Bartek Mirecki. They shared victories in the first weekend. Tomáš Pekář scored pole position and won the opening race of the season. Then it was Bartek Mirecki taking victory in race number 2, with both of the drivers then taking third places in the other races that they didn't win. Second places went to Oskar Marszalkowski in race number 1 and Julian Smiechowski in race number 2. So mixed podiums in the opening round, mixed proceedings. And we have got Tomáš Pekář leading the championship standings on 44 points. Bartek Mirecki trailing him by a single point, so sitting in second on 43. Julian Smiechowski already a little further behind at 29, with Oskar Marszalkowski currently having 19 points to his name. But it is Tomáš Pekář again on pole position in his predominantly orange car, prepared by Mělník-based Karpek Service Racing Team, one of the dominant forces of the championship, and they have their leading horse at the head of the grid once again. So Tomáš Pekář on pole position, alongside him Bartek Mirecki. They were the only two drivers in the qualifying earlier on today who managed to get their lap times under 100 seconds. Julian Smiechowski in third, from David Babraj in P4, Oskar Marszalkowski, whom we have also already mentioned, currently in P5. Alongside him on row number 3, Matic Presha. But if we actually look at the times, from third place Julian Smiechowski all the way to sixth place Matic Presha, Julian did 140.291, David Babraj 140.345, Oskar Marszalkowski 356, and Matic Presha 400. So that basically gives you just over a tenth of a second that covers 4 drivers, and that just tells you how incredibly closely fought the Renault Clio Cup season is contested yet again. And not only that, you can see that you can't pretty much see even as far as the last row of the grid, because the grid is incredibly packed. As I mentioned, not as much as it was in Austria, but still 27 cars lined up on the start of the race, and that just gives us the expectation of a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful racing action yet again in the Renault Clio Cup Bohemia. Bartek Mirecki in his very interestingly liveried, sort of hand-painted car, and alongside him the usual orange colours of Karpek Service. If we keep going through the grid, P7 it is Rafał Paprota, in P8 Jörg Sodnik, in P9 Filip Divok, and in P10 Alan Kluza. Behind the top 10 it is Ksawery Osolinski-Nierodka in P11, from Pavel Vismik, Nico Wust in P13. Having had a big crash the last time out in Austria, but he's all fine. The car needed to be repaired quite heavily, but both him and Reto Wust, so son and dad, back on the grid. Great to see them. But between them and their 13th and 17th positions on the grid, there are 3 further cars: Petar Miloradovic, Jakub Vondráček, and Miha Primožič in 14th, 15th and 16th. P18, that's Václav Janík Jr., Walter Nežič in P19 from Piotr Lavsky, Ivan Gustin P21, Jan Raška P22, Then Alex Sovka in P23. Pavel Pajker 24th. Tomislav Jaklin in 25th. From Vladimir Jaklin in 26th. And it is then Matteo Saidero in 27th. Cars are already in the formation lap. At this 4.1 kilometer long racetrack. And as we are progressing through the day, it is still cloudy, but it seems as though the rains have already gone. And that means that the track is already largely dry, maybe with a few tiny little, I was not going to say wet, but maybe rather damp patches here and there. But it is already full grip for slick tires. So no need for grooves on your rubber. And that means that we're going to be racing at full speed here in Croatia. Now making our way through the twisty middle section, through the little valley, and back up the hill we go. Onto the back straight, into the final hairpin, and back onto the start and finish, straight to the finish line. We are back in Croatia after 4 years. Last time we raced here was in 2022. Then Grobnik actually lost its place on the calendar for a couple of years. So back onto the starting grid. Tomáš Pekař leading us away. Everybody just making final moves to put temperature into the tires and into the brakes to be able to send it fully right from the get-go. Most importantly, into the opening corner of the track, of course, and of the race. So, the biggest two opponents, the biggest two challengers for the championship so far this season, sharing a victory apiece between them, sharing the front row at the start of weekend number 2 again. So on your left-hand side of the screen, the orange car, that is Tomáš Pekař, multiple Clio Cup champion, and alongside him, his biggest challenger to this date, Polish driver Bartek Merecki. 25 minutes of exciting and intense racing action awaiting us. So green flag is now in the air. Let's get going here at Grobnik. The red lights are on. The red lights are off, and away we go. Tomáš Pekař from pole position. Immediately Julian Śmiechowski is trying to squeeze ahead, and it's going to be a three-way battle into the first corner. Bartek Merecki taking the top spot off the hands of Tomáš Pekař, who sends it round the outside to defend from Śmiechowski. There is a crash in the background already, and that is one of the Carpek cars, that is one of the Janík cars in the gravel trap. But at the head, we keep on racing. Tomáš Pekař down in second. Further fights also forming up down the field. And it is car number 88 in trouble. That would be Václav Janík Jr. And I would assume from positions that it might be somewhere around either Jan Raška or maybe Jakub Vondráček in the trouble. In the first corner, safety car will be out. So the race is immediately neutralized with Bartek Merecki leading us away from Tomáš Pekař and Julian Śmiechowski. With David Babraj seemingly slotting behind them in third. This is Vašek Janík Jr., son of the founder and the boss of the entire Janík Motorsport team, and it is car number 11 also in trouble, and that would be Jakub Vondráček out of the race in the first corner. Not exactly how he wanted the race to start. Yesterday we had a lovely chat in the Carpac Racing's tent after qualifyings, and Vašek Janík, I think he entered the first corner flying at quite large speed, and he was unable to stop the car in time. He was coming quite aggressively from the inside and spun towards the outside. I think everybody around him was really lucky that he didn't hit anyone. That was quite dangerous, and I would assume that maybe Jakub Vondráček saw that reddish smudge in his rearview mirror, so tried to take evasive action and leave a little more speed, maybe sent it or maybe released the brake a little bit and just got into the corner slightly faster himself and then lost grip as well and spun into the gravel. I don't think there was a hit between the two because the cars are not damaged, so really in the end everybody's very, very, very lucky that that entire situation ended up with no collision, because that may have been a big one. In the end, it is, so to say, just cars in the gravel. Of course, it is frustrating when you are coming such a long way all the way to Croatia and then racing for just a couple of 100 meters into the first corner, and then that's it. Of course, there's a race number 2 tomorrow as well, so another chance of a good result. But for today, it is already game over for both Czech youngsters. Bartek Mirecky in first. He managed a really good getaway from the start, and down the inside he took the race lead off the hands of Tomáš Pekař, who also had to look at Julian Smiechowski and watch him in his rearview mirrors. He then decided to actually release the brake a little bit and just make his way around the outside at a slightly higher pace, and that gave him the second place back. So at least second is what he managed to salvage from the initial situation, and then the race was quickly neutralized, so no more racing was available for neither of them. Rafał Paprota seems to be up to fourth, and that would have been a good start by the car number 99. David Babraj down to fifth. Pavel Vismik gained quite a lot of places. He's in sixth. From Filip Živok, he also made a good start and gained a couple of positions. Matic Presha, one of the ones that was at loss at the start, he is now down to 8th from Jörg Sodnik. Petar Miloradovic up to 10th. Behind the top 10 we have Ksawery Osolinsky-Nierodka, Niko Wust, Oskar Marszalkowski. That was a really, really poor start by the Polish driver. He dropped it all the way down to 13th from, I believe, 5th on the grid. Miha Primožič up to 14th from Reto Wust. Alan Kluza down in 16th. Walter Nežič up to 17th. Piotr Lavsky up to 18th. Jan Raška up to 19th. And Alex Sovka up to 20th. Just as the car number 11 is being dragged out of the gravel trap on the outside of the first corner. That's the car of Jakub Vondráček that we have already lost from today's race. He's going to be dragged somehow back into, well, not exactly into the pits, of course. It cannot be driven extensively in the wrong way. It's going to be dragged behind the barriers. And as soon as that is done, we will be racing again here in Croatia. It's going to take a little bit of time, so we're losing valuable minutes from the 25-minute timeline that we have for this race. But no red flags, that's good. Safety car stays out, but the Yannick Motorsport car is already gone, and the Karpek racing car now being dragged behind the barrier as well. So I believe that maybe as soon as at the end of this lap, we might be able to race again here in Grobnik. And we have 24 cars left in this race, which is still a lot to have some fun. It's a really strong field, it needs to be said. So we are waiting for that information if we will be able to restart the race at the end of this lap. Of course, we will not know until the end of Sector 2 whether the safety car extinguishes its flashing lights. But when that happens, we will know that we will be racing again very soon indeed. But everybody trying to keep warmth in their tires. Snaking through the S's corners. But the lights keep flashing on the safety car. And in that case, it will be one more. So let us get around the final hairpin with safety car staying on the track. We will do one more lap before the restart. And then we will get going again. It was really rather slow also for the safety car, who was maybe trying to give the race director a little more time to get everybody going, but this lap was really driven at a very slow speed, very slow pace, because previously we did the lap behind the safety car in 3 minutes 18 seconds, and I would assume that this one would be extremely, a lot slower than the previous one. We're now coming across the line with Bartek Mirecki leading the race. 3:18.6 was the previous lap behind the safety car, just to judge on the pace. This one 3:48.2. So the safety car did this lap even half a minute slower. Maybe the driver was really just trying to give the race director a lot more time, and he was hoping for the race to be restarted, but that didn't happen. And in that case, we need to do another one, which is this one. Just over 4 kilometers. We're back up to sort of safety car, the usual safety car speed. The cars are already away from the race, away from the racetrack. The ones that crashed in the opening corner, and with the track being clear, we're bound to be racing at the end of this lap. So Bartek Mirecki leading from Tomáš Pekas. This is the car number 12, driven by Pavel Pajkr, doing his first full season in the Renault Clio Cup, gaining experience, gaining speed. Julian Smiechowski in third from Rafał Paprota. David Babraj in fifth from Pavel Vismik, Filip Divok, Matic Presha, Jorg Sodnik and Petar Miloradovic. That will be your top 10 for the moment, with about 14 minutes left on the clock. So we are getting closer to the halfway mark of the race, and now we are also getting towards the end of sector number 2, where the safety car will finally stop flashing and shut off its lights so that we're able to restart the race. But still, it seems not to be the case. What is going on now? I think that the safety car is now on the track unnecessarily long. And there he is. There he goes. The safety car goes away. So we are getting ready for the restart. Oh, nearly a touch from Julian Smiechowski towards Tomáš Pekář. I believe they may even kissed each other slightly. Bumper to bumper, but we are now going green here at Grobnik. And Bartek Merecki is taking the entire snake of Clios back onto the start and finish straight, gaining valuable meters into the first corner. This is good for him. And we have got Filip Živok already locking his target. That is Pavel Vismik in 6th. Big lockups from pretty much everybody into the first corner. One of the cars going slightly sideways, but managing to stay on the road. That would be the car number 111, Petar Miloradovic, but staying away from trouble. Bartek Merecki leading from Tomáš Pekář and Julian Smiechowski. And we've just entered the second half of the race here. And through the snaky bit. Back up the hill. And let's get back to the race lead. I'm really interested to see whether Tomáš Pekář is managing to put pressure on Bartek Merecki, or if he is under pressure himself. And there we go. Merecki leading, but it looks like Tomáš Pekář is getting slightly closer. Smiechowski under pressure from Rafał Paprota. The top 4 being or staying within 1 second pretty much. And by the way, there was an incident further back in the field. Car number 9, which is Jan Raška, ended up spinning into the gravel trap in the hairpin. I believe that would be this corner here. No, must actually be the hairpin at the end of the circuit, because there is gravel trap on the outside. There it is. More cars in trouble, actually. Also, car number 33 from Ivan Gustin, and not only him, there was also another one, car 661. That was Vladimir Jaklin. So Tomislav Jaklin. So 3 drivers getting into trouble at the end of the first lap after the restart. Car number 555, Jörg Sodnik, right behind David Babraj, who lost a couple of places. So something must have happened to David Babraj, because he was 5th after the restart. Now he's dropped to 8th. But hard fights behind Miloradovic. It's the pair of Osolinsky Nierodka and Oskar Marszalkowski. Marszalkowski seemingly coming through towards the top 10, having lost a lot of places at the start. He was 5th on the grid. Now he's not even in the top 10, so he will definitely want to move back up. Fastest lap of the race for Tomáš Pekář, 140.9. First one to do a lap under 101 seconds. Bartek Merecki staying just slightly above that limit, that level, 141.088. 9 minutes left. And there is not even a full 10th of a second, or was Not even a full tenth of a second between Mirecki and Pekars coming across the line, so there must have been a fight into the first corner. But here you see that Mirecki is still staying ahead of Pekars. It's another brilliant fight between the two, with Śmiechowski and Paprota not far away behind. It's a big fight among the leading top four in the race number 1 of the Renault Clio Cup Bohemia at Grobnik in 2026. And Tomáš Pekars already I was going to say slipstreaming, but he's trying to have a look left and right. He's really fast, exiting the twisty bit in the middle. Now he's taking the outside line into the hairpin. He's going to cut across again to the inside, and this was a great exit from the hairpin. Tomáš Pekars taking the lead off the hands of Bartek Mirecki, but his car was dancing slightly, which was not really good for the traction in that section. That means that Bartek Mirecki is now gaining speed, and he is going blasting past and back into the lead together with Julian Śmiechowski, who managed to squeeze his car ahead as well. Tomáš Pekars losing yet more ground because it is also Rafał Paprota getting himself into the mix. Somehow the guys in the cars avoiding touching. Extremely close racing, but no collisions. Fantastic scrap for top 4 positions. Tomáš Pekars losing out in the end. He was first momentarily. Ooh, further trouble for Petar Miloradovic. This is not his first drift of the day. And I believe that he also collected some damage to the front right corner of his car. So I would assume that there was contact with somebody else. Pekars under pressure from Paprota. He's now losing touch with the leading pair of Polish drivers. With Bartek Mirecki leading. This would be a good result for him, given the fact that he is trailing Tomáš Pekars by 1 point in the standings. Another fight, is that Miha Primožič the second car in the shot? I would believe so. He's behind Alan Kluza. That would mean that Alan Kluza has just managed to get himself ahead of Miha Primožič in the fight for 13th and 14th. Six minutes left. That would suggest maybe some 4 laps. And we are fighting again. Julian Śmiechowski now taking the lead off the hands of Bartek Mirecki. But what's going to happen? Under braking, that's really tight. Even a sheet of paper wouldn't fit between the two cars. Fantastic scrap for the race lead. And how did Bartek Mirecki manage to slow his car right down? He was so fast, blasting into the first corner, but somehow avoiding crash. Both just sliding through the first corner beautifully. Pretty much like Aquabellas, but it is Julian Śmiechowski leading the race. So 3rd different name at the head of the race today. And it's still not done. We still have got at least 3 more laps to decide this. Bartek Mirecki slipstreaming past Śmiechowski, launching an attack down the inside. That was pretty much a textbook stuff, but what happens on the exit? Śmiechowski sticking his car right next to his countryman, and they are now going to be running side by side onto the start and finish straight. Tomáš Pekars is also having a look. They are very nearly pushing each other with Bartek Mirecki. Well, no touching, but slipstreaming past one another, and now it is Śmiechowski gaining speed thanks to the slipstream. So Tomáš Pekars, there's contact. I was going to say that he was not going to gain anything from that, and he actually didn't. There was contact. He's now cutting across Rafał Paprota to stop him getting ahead. But Pekars and Śmiechowski touched entering the first corner, as Śmiechowski was trying to cut Tomáš off. So Merecki now leading. It was actually Smiechowski leading on the previous lap, but that order changed again. Fantastic race here on our hands. And into the hairpin we go again. This time it is Tomáš Pekář having a little look down the inside on Smiechowski. But no change in the order. Just under 3 minutes left on the clock. 2 more laps left from this race. And what a race it is. What a race it's been. Smiechowski now launching an attack. He's side by side with Merecki. Tomáš Pekář also trying to invite himself into the party. Now driving around the outside of Merecki. Merecki trying to cut him off. This is Tomáš Pekář. He's not going to be cut off that easily. In the end, he is. So Bartek managing to hold on to second at least. So Smiechowski leading this time. And the top 4 still staying compact. Just keep watching this battle, this beautiful scrap, because it is so exciting in the fight for the race victory, and it could still be anyone from the top 4 taking the victory eventually. There is one of the cars being lapped, driving rather slowly, letting everybody through. Smiechowski's trying to corner so hard, but it is now Merecki gaining speed through the valley, and up the hill we go. Merecki managing nice traction. And he's going to be fast along the back straight. Tomáš Pekář also trying to line for a potential move. Merecki taking the inside line into the hairpin, and he's going to retake the lead yet again. Tomáš Pekář also trying to see what is there for him to be had. He's trying to get his car down the inside on Smiechowski, but he wasn't near enough. So on to the start and finish straight we go. Entering the final lap of the race with Merecki leading, but just slightly from Smiechowski, who is taking the lead yet again. Who's going to be braver under braking? Merecki all the way from behind takes the lead again. So that was a unsuccessful attempt from Julian Smiechowski. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful fight for the race victory here at Grobnik. 30 seconds left. This is the final lap of the race with Merecki now leading. There is going to be pretty much one more chance into the hairpin for anyone to come up with anything. Those are the S's corners at the back of the circuit. Quite a lot of dirt on the track, so not a whole lot of grip through there, as the water was still pouring onto the track earlier on. Smiechowski sending it sideways. That's not the fastest way around, and that's just gonna serve him on the silver plate to Tomáš Pekář. And he wants to have that, but Smiechowski is just weaving down that straight, and he's now sending Tomáš onto the grass. That was nasty from Julian Smiechowski. This is already good news for Bartek Merecki, because it seems that he can get the necessary breathing space to enter the finish straight. And here we are. This is the end of race number 1 here at Grobnik. Bartek Merecki is going to take victory in race number 3 of 2026. Bartek Merecki victorious for the second time this year. And with that, he's going to take the championship lead off the hands of Tomáš Pekář, who is coming across the line in third, having been pushed onto the grass by Julian Smiechowski on the final lap. And I believe that that's something that maybe the stewards would want to take a look at, because Julian Smiechowski definitely moved more than once under defense. And once Tomáš was getting alongside him, Julian Smiechowski pushed him wide. This is Ivan Gustin in trouble. But here I believe that he pushed himself wide, maybe being a tad too optimistic into the braking zone. So Bartek Merecký taking a second victory of the season from Julian Smiechowski. Tomáš Pekař coming home in third. Rafał Paprota fourth. Matic Presha worked his way back up to fifth. Pavel Vismik in sixth. Oskar Maršalkovský in the end in seventh. So finishing in the points, Jörg Sodnik in eighth from Filip Živok and Ksavery Osolinsky Nierodka. That will be your top 10 for today. And because the Renault Twingo Cup race is coming up, I'm gonna have to leave you to it. I'm gonna be replaced by Max Karhan for that one, so enjoy it just as much as I'm gonna try and do. I think it's gonna be exciting. It was a thrilling Renault Clio Cup race, but more Cup racing coming ahead and coming up in just a few minutes.